if you're doing a shoot just for exposure and knowing that the money that shoot's going to give you is just going to cover the cost you've already spent, that's not sustainable. Like, that's not sustainable at all. And unless those shoots really take off and the exposure that you get from them is really incredible, all you've done there is waste time and money. Like, my first ever porn shoot it paid £200. It was an audition shoot, low as fuck, but again, I was auditioning for a company, and so I guess, like, that's fair enough because they were going to pay me that whether I performed well or not. But it took me 3 days to get up to London, get my certs done, go stay at my mate's house outside of London, so I didn't even pay for accommodation, get back into London, do the shoot, and then get back to Cornwall. And so all in all, I ended up taking home with me, after like factoring in the expenses, £15, 15. And so that was for 3 days work. That was for 3 days, 2 days of travelling and getting blood work done, and then a whole day of filming. And so, like, all right, that was worth it for me because it was an experience to get my foot in the door and gave me an experience of what it was like to be on the porn set. And then whether I was going to enjoy it or not, whether it was something I was going to be good at or not. And obviously, fundamentally, it was successful. It did lead to me being where I am now. But at the same time, had that not been a successful thing, I'd have done 3 days of work and travel and stress for £15. And that wasn't including accommodation. I was lucky enough to have people I could stay with. If I'd had to pay for a hotel room or an Airbnb, I'd have left out of pocket. And, like, that's not sustainable at all.
I think it comes from this attitude as well that, like, there's still a taboo around the industry, but less so for guys. I think the way guys are paid and treated in the industry comes from this, like, underlying issue that everyone goes, but every boy wants to be a porn star, every guy wants to fuck for a living, whereas girls, because so I've got a politics degree, so I'm going to get right into the gender studies now. Because girls, we have so much repressed sexuality and things growing up, and because we're viewed as like this Madonna whore situation, you know, there's so much sexism around women's sexuality, so there's still this taboo and this stigma around us having sex at all, whether or not we're getting paid for it. And so this attitude comes about from, like, well, guys must want to have sex for a living, so we don't need to pay them very much. Whereas girls don't even like sex, so if they're going to do it, we're going to have to pay them loads of money.
Yeah, God, yeah.
And it's ridiculous.
And, like, at the end of the day, like, the job, for different reasons, it's equally stressful for both of us, obviously for different reasons, but, like, it's still, at the end of the day, we're both in the same scene, we're both there for the same amount of time for the most part, we're both